Welcome back to the Exchange Place podcast, y'all. Hey, y'all. This is the Home for Healing, and I am I don't even know the words to say. I would say ecstatic about this new segment that I'm introducing to you guys. For all the oldies, the people that know the Exchange Place, and the newbies, this has kind of been at my heart since I started the podcast, if I'm honest. I always wanted to have therapists on the show. Y'all know I'm pursuing to be a therapist, and I love therapy. I really, really do. And I found an amazing guest to bring on. So this will be our Therapy Thursdays, and I pray that you guys enjoy it. And today we have who I think will become a friend of the show. She don't know it yet though, but she about to be a friend of the show, y'all. None other than Janay Harden. Welcome to the show, sis. I'm so happy to have you. For those who, again, have been following the Exchange Place, I just want to connect because I always feel like the Exchange Place is also not only the home for healing, it's a connection place. And people love Brenda, so I gotta shout out Brenda, and this is Brenda's bestie. Yes, we're gonna be inspired by it, but you guys are besties, and for such a long time, me and her, she was just like, I think it'd be so nice for you to have her on, and I finally.
Yep, she had been saying it too. It was so funny, and finally came together.
I love it. And I was a little nervous asking, if I'm honest, and I'm always honest about that. I was like, let me see, because I see you are, first of all, you are a 4-time author, I want to say.
Yeah. I'm publishing pretty frequently, yeah.
Come on, girl. Now, y'all got to go and get her books. And I'm talking too, because I'm a reader, but I haven't got your books. But I'm headed there, so y'all follow me.
Please. They are filled with mental health and Black stories and very, just reminiscent, I think, of just, old school storytelling. I'm kind of biased. I think they're, amazing, but, I get a lot of very good feedback. So, the plan is really to kind of keep moving, keep publishing until Netflix calls and says, let's make a movie.
Let's do it. Ask them if they need an actress. I'm
bringing everybody, the whole team, everybody coming.
I love that. I love what you are doing. I've been watching you for quite some time, if I'm honest. It's super dope what you're doing, and continue to do it. And now we are exposing you to my audience and my platform, and I just know that they'll be blessed for it. It's so funny because me and you had a off-camera conversation, and you were sharing this season of the podcast. My podcast, for those of you who don't know, kind of runs in this Kaizen model, and Kaizen means continuous improvement. And I feel like in the healing space, it's a process and it's progress. Yeah. It is not a destination, right? So we always touch the healing area. It's always evolving, and then there's restoration, and we are in the restoration season.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. Absolutely. When we chatted, it's interesting because my therapy business is restoring your destiny.
Yes.
So it's just so fitting. Like we was meant to do this, sis.
This is I was about to say this is like it's like what I call right now. I feel like we're in the due season where things are just literally, and this is actually going to be the theme, at least for this month. It's called "The Pieces Are Coming Together."
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay.
Yes. So I just feel like we're really getting connected, almost like a puzzle of things and people that you're supposed to be connected to, and what I like to call divine connection at this point in life. So I thought we'd start off this first segment, with something that is actually dear to my heart, but it's restoration of families. And especially the Black family. I think there are so many conversations that we have not had, don't know how to have, don't feel like, and I'll talk about me, don't really feel like the other person may have the capacity to have those conversations in a sense. So I wanted to talk about conversations we wish we would have had with our parents or could have with our parents or your caregiver, because everybody didn't grow up with their mom or dad biologically.
Yeah.
So your grandmothers, we know in our families, sometimes, you know, you end up growing up with your grandmother or your auntie. So I wanted to talk about some conversations that we should be having, or the how we could have those conversations. Do you have any input on, I guess, having hard conversations with your parents or, again, caregivers that raised you?
You know, in the essence of restoration,
Mm-hmm.
it's so fitting that that is what, you know, my business is called. That is the space that you are in. And also in my personal life, you know, I would definitely say I'm in a restoration period with my parents. And, you know, some of the main conversations I think that I wish I would have had would have been related to finances, for one, and then also communicating. You know, I think in our older generations, you know, their communication styles are very much, you know, do as I say, you know, don't ask me no questions, and, you know, like ain't no talking back or any of those things. But for me and the type of kid that I was, like, I was always so big on words. You know, that's partly why I became an author. And I was just so big on, you know, that communication and asking questions and trying to, you know, figure out why, you know, this affected this and it affected that. And, you know, how it all kind of, you know, came together to make me. And, you know, parents are just, you know, do what I say. I say what I said, you know, and that's what it is. But for me, it ushered in, I think, the feeling of I'm not heard, you know, I'm not listened to. And, you know, I think that's a feeling that a lot of us kind of have, and it persists into our adult years. But once we get to a certain point as an adult, you know, at some point it transitions into every aspect of our life, our relationships, you know, our work relationships, our friendships, you know?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah. So that's something I think I am now having those conversations, and it's in a very empowering conversation only because now I have the language for it, whereas like I didn't before, you know?
I love that. It's so funny because I always said it's what I call my "what about me" syndrome. I can so relate to that. So I am, initially I was the middle child until I lost my sister. For those on the show, I lost my sister when I was 11, almost 12 years old. She died in my arms, and she was the baby of the family. But I grew up at least the middle child. My older sister also passed away, but I didn't know her. So I was like kind of the middle child, the child that was like, also had tons of questions. People
Yeah.
like, you talk too much. Why you keep
Yep.
on asking questions? Where they almost, I just read a book about questions and like how as adults, we don't ask them as much
Yeah.
because in our childhood, there's something kind of taken away from us when you question things too much. And it's like,
Right.
I'm just inquisitive. I really want to, I want to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
I've been like that since a kid, but no different than you in that area. A lot of times I felt like I didn't have a voice, or the things that I was thinking or wanted to ask at a certain point, I would not,
Yeah.
because I had kind of been told, like, not shut up necessarily, but like you said, kind of being seen and not heard, stay in a child's place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of things that I wish my dad's no longer here. So of course I can't have those conversations with him. My mom, who I love dearly, I've tried to have certain conversations with her, but I feel like sometimes she will take my inquiry again as either offense, which has
Uh,
been,
okay.
yeah, it's like, did you do a good job? And that's not a question. My mom's an amazing mom. Like,
Yeah.
literally, I would not
That's how
be who
she
I
takes
am.
it.
But it's almost an offense to her kind of asking questions or getting. I feel like sometimes my mom kind of has blockages from like her past when I kind of ask her certain things or go to her for certain things. Like she's kind of
You
in
know
this.
what? It is. It's so, that is so interesting because I say that in therapy, like the way we remember a certain situation from our childhood versus our parents' memories of it are totally different. Like, it's
Mhm.
almost like you're like, did this happen? Like, did we did this really happen for us? Like, because you see it a totally different way than I experienced it. So it's like,
Yeah.
again, like, which one is true? So there is no notion of true. Actually, it's just, the gray area. She sees things as black, you see things as white. And when really it may have happened somewhere in the gray area, but our experience of it is what lasts and what persists.
I love
Like,
that.
yeah, for
And
parents, they're just like, that didn't happen.
that didn't happen. Like what I think too, like what you said, I do think that two things can be true at the same time. I think for me, I'm trying to, like, again, it's not a blame thing, but trying to get her to understand it. I'm not blaming her, and more so because I just really want an understanding, like, hey, why did you function in that way? We had an interesting conversation. This was probably I want to say about 3 or 4 years ago. And this is when I really had started therapy and was kind of sorting through my own stuff. And I remember my mom, this probably, for those who are listening, please do not do it this way. Mama, please don't do it this way. Because it kind of just came out. Again, I was kind of going through therapy. There was a lot of stuff going on in my life at that time. And I remember my mom calling me and she was just like, oh, you know how you are. And it triggered me because what she was basically saying is like, oh, you know how you are. You do everything yourself. And I was like, have you ever asked yourself why I am like that? And I kind of went into like the 11-year-old, almost 12-year-old me who had never had therapy, who had never, at that point, like my mom had never asked me if I was okay. We just kind of went back to life. You know what I mean? It was just like, and I was really stuck for a long time throughout life. Like you said, it's showing up in relationships with like, I learned how to be okay, or at least look okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, look okay.
Yeah. So it was, it was kind of like my response, which wasn't a great response for those who were listening, but it just kind of blurted out. I was like, you never even asked me if I'm okay. And at this point, I think I probably was 40 at that point. Y'all don't be counting my age either. But I probably was, if I wasn't 40, I think I was almost 40 at this point. But I was like, I'm, almost 40 years old, and you never, to this day, you have an assumption that I'm okay. And I've learned that from you. And she was so offended. She was
I could see that because, for her, nobody's ever asked her if she was okay. Nobody's ever had even the notion to think like, hey, let me check in. Like, let me ask her if she's okay, because so much of, our generational stuff has just been keeping on.
Yeah.
Like I listened to a podcast a couple weeks ago, and the guy said something that was like so profound to me that like I've been telling everybody. But basically what he said was, in reference of how people say, hold on, let me think about this, how I want to say it. So how people say the good old days. Like everything happened way back when, and this is how we used to do things back then. So he was saying how women in general, so not Black women, not white women, just women in general, have never had a concept of the good old days. Like we have always, since inception, since whoever brought us here, whatever we believe, since inception we've never had a concept of the good old days. We've been thought of as property sometimes. And we've been thought of as, just the wives and the moms and the caretakers. And like, we really have had, for generations had to fight for everything, just to, to vote and to, divorce and to, get abortions or, all of these, things that, to us seem just, a regular thing that we should have, but like we've always had to fight for it, since the beginning. So there's never been a concept of, are you okay?
Yeah.
Can I check in? We just kind of keep moving forward,
So I guess in your wisdom and even in your experience, how do you think I can actually do a better job with that? Because I've tried, of course, after this conversation, not in that conversation, because that one didn't. Let me just say this. I feel like it was not the greatest way to say it, but I do think it kind of opened up a little bit of like, it gave me a perspective of what she felt in that moment. So when my sister died in my arms, my mom wasn't there. I was. And what she said is that she's always blamed herself for not being there.
Mm.
And it gave me, again, a different perspective. I think since then, though, it opened up. It's not like a wide opening, if that makes sense. So I guess I would like to know, and for the listeners who may have this kind of issue, maybe not the exact same issue, but like approach to parents, like, how do you kind of think it's better for me to approach her? Because I've kind of tried to, when I try to talk to my mom about past stuff, in her mind, it's like it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, nothing. Like, if I'm like, Mom, I'm having like a bad day, and she's like, oh, I don't have bad days. I'm like, sis, I didn't see you cry. I remember as a kid, you know what I'm saying? Like watching you cry. I remember seeing you in spaces that I know couldn't have been, good spaces for you. Like, I'm looking for, some motherly direction, but I think she doesn't see it. And I don't know. So like, what are are there any good tactics to kind of get more out of her?
Yeah, I think you're actually doing it, just by you working on yourself and healing yourself, you are becoming the lighthouse for other people to see your light and to come to you, or allow you to come to them, and just kind of at least approach that conversation, because if you think about it, like before you started doing your own healing work, you weren't in a space to even have these conversations with mom, or if you were, it probably was kind of laced with like, some slickness to it, some spice to it.
It was definitely a little spice.
Yeah. It sounded a little bit different. Yeah. So as you progress in your own healing journey, you have become the lighthouse. So I would say, just keep, having these tough conversations. One thing I will say is, a lot of times when we say like, hey, mom, I'd like to sit down and talk to you and have a conversation, that right off the rip don't work, because like, think about us. Like if someone says, hey, I got to talk to you about something later, immediately I'm like, no, call me right now. I'll right now. What's up? Yeah. So I think sometimes, especially with Black mothers, we come in a little too hot for them. So if you guys are like just sitting back, like watching TV, or like having a random conversation about like anything, kind of make that a story, or make that a moment for you guys to just kind of process, things.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was watching, Law and Order with my mom, just sitting there, chatting. And then we kind of started, up a conversation about what we were watching. And I was trying to, make sure I inserted certain questions just to see what her thought process was. And, to see if like maybe I could, just poke it just a little bit to get her to think of things differently, but in a more non-confrontational way. Cause she thinks, we're talking about the TV, but I'm really like, hey, like, what do you think about this?
Yeah. I'm going to try that. I think too, it's been not an urgent matter for me. My mom has been sick a little bit also. She's getting, older. She'll be 75 in March. So I think I'm thinking like I've even tried, and she probably won't watch this, so I can say I've tried like calling her and kind of having like regular conversation, but like asking questions and recording her. Cause again, I have this, and maybe you're a therapist, so you probably can. My dad's been gone for almost 7 years now. And I just have this thing of just like, I realize people are not here forever. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm constantly taking pictures. Not that I think my mom's leaving here anytime, but just, I know that today is not promised, let alone tomorrow. Right. Yeah. So I'm constantly trying to like, kind of, poke. And I know too, it feels more urgent on my side because there's a part of me that feels that way. Like you're not going to have her forever. Mm-hmm. You want to have more of these conversations because there are so many conversations that I would love to have with my dad. Yeah. Now that I am, like, I always talk to my dad, but there's so many
Does your mom know the work that you're doing?
She does. She does. My mom is like, I think I'm in a family, and I think maybe a lot of people can relate to this. So I have an older brother who's about 6 years older. And my mom is very more catering to my brother. And I'm kind of the one that, and I've always been like that, even since a child, that like, I'm going to be okay. Like,
yeah.
I'm that kid. I've always been that kid, and now I'm that adult.
How's the saying go? Like moms love their sons but raise their
And raise
daughters.
their daughters.
Yep.
I'm that. I'm 100% that. And it's okay for, I definitely through therapy, I've gone through periods of time where I hated that part of it because I'm just like, again, that what about me type thing. And though I understand it, I feel like in certain spaces and places you do play a role, and that's just not my role. I'm not saying that's good or bad, or would I love for it to change a little bit. I think my mom, what I will say is that she tries more now. But I think it's just not, it's also the way that she was raised. So if a man, even with my kids, I have boys. If my boys walk in the house, it's what you got to eat, whatever. I walk in the house is what did you bring me?
Yeah.
It's a very different dynamic.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's something that she does intentionally. I think it's something that was ingrained in her. I don't think it's necessarily a me thing. And I don't take it personal. I just think it's just, she doesn't see me as needing help sometimes.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, she feels like she's done her job and I'm good. I'm going to be okay.
And you know what? Like sometimes we need to remind them of those things that like, you see Superman, but I'm Clark Kent too, Like I remember about a month or so ago, I had gotten an award from Martin Luther King Day. And you think... It was a really nice event, and there was like a lot of people there. But I had told my family about the event maybe like 2 weeks before it happened. And so like they all assembled and they all, got to the event. And they were all, thankful that, I had invited them. But the people that were announcing like during the presentation had mentioned that, they had started planning, months ago, and they had told the recipients months ago. So my family kind of looked at me and they were like, well, you knew about this months ago. Like, why did you just tell us 2 weeks ago? And my whole family's at this table. And I said, because I was depressed, and I was thankful for this award, but I did not have the mental capacity or the social battery to tell people or even to celebrate myself in that moment, because like I was going through something. So I told you guys when I felt okay enough to do so. Now this is at the event, the whole tape, my whole thing, and this is what I said. And I literally watched them like kind of relax. Like, oh, she gets depressed, like she feels some type of way too. Yes, I do. So I need to remind you of that too. I know you see me a certain type of way, right? But what you see is years of trauma, years of me making sure that I'm okay and making sure that I'm stoic and making sure that, I show up a certain type of way. But like I go through stuff as well, and I need you to know that.
I love that. I love that. I love that they recognize that at the table and kind of, like you said, like it was an awareness of that. Mm-hmm. I also want to talk to you. My mom doesn't, like, if I ask her about stress, she's like, I don't stress. I pray. I'm just like, what? Like, you know what I mean? So I can't even, there's one time that reminds me, my mom called me, probably a couple of months ago, and me and my son were laughing because I was like, watch this. I was having a really tough time. And my mom calls, she's like, how are you? Whatever. I'm like, yeah, I'm just not, I'm having a hard day. Like, it's been a hard week. It's just whatever, stress. She's like, me and my son cracked up. She's like, stress. I was like, what did you do when you had stress? She's like, I don't get stressed. And it's like, and I think that too is a hard thing for me, because as much as I'm trying to be transparent and kind of say, hey, not having a good day, it's just like for her.
See, in that moment, I would have been like, Mom, but you do stress. Because remember that time I saw you crying, and remember that time, you was complaining that your stomach was hurting or you had headaches or whatever. Like, that's stress. It looks different in everybody.
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use that. But it's so bad that recently, like I said, she's been sick. Like, I had to take her to the hospital, and she kept telling me she was fine. I could physically see you're not fine. Like, I could physically see you in pain, and you keep telling me you're not in pain. I'm seeing you flinch from, you know what I mean, when you get the pain. And I was just like, what is that? And how, I'm like, Lord, please figure out how I can, not necessarily, I know I can't fix it because I do have the Cape hero syndrome at times that I gotta balance out. But how do I help her kind of manage that? I'm like, you are sick. Like we got to the hospital, literally your pressure was in stroke range.
Mm-hmm.
I can physically see. And then when we got to the hospital, finally, she's just like, and she's letting it be known she's in pain finally. And I'm just like, I know you're in pain, but I also, again, like you said, I love the analogy of I'm the lighthouse. I'm going to use that and still that.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about it too is like, it stops with you, you know?
That is the part.
Yeah.
That's literally, I'm almost about to cry.
Yeah.
That is the goal for me. I'm just like, I
Mm-hmm.
refuse for this to go past another generations. My boys will not experience, their kids will not experience it. It literally stops with me. I just,
and you know what, for me, like so many, again, going back to the finances thing, you know, that was such a big thing for me growing up, because, you know, it was a typical, you know, single parent household, struggled, you know, financially. But there were so many financial situations that, again, like I would see and I would kind of question and I would ask questions about, and I would be met with, you know, mind your business, you know, you a kid, your job is to school. That's
you ain't paying nothing up in here.
And I'm like, but the lights are off, and like, what's going on? You know, I have all these questions, but again, it's like, you know, me being silenced. And I remember, this is a funny story. I remember being a kid, you know, I'm the oldest, and I was, you know, a latchkey kid. So I came home around 2:30, you know, I had to take the meat out the freezer and, you know, get everything situated. Mm-hmm. But my mom was a maniac about making sure I got the mail. So when she came home from work, she wanted the mail like sitting right there on the table, and it had to be there every single day. So our routine was I would come home, I would get the mail, and if I saw a check in the mail, I had to call her and say, Mom, there's a check in the mail. And she would leave work, come and get the check, cash it. And sometimes like this was a pretty frequent thing, because that would be the difference between, you know, her getting off work at 5:00, not being able to cash that check, and now the lights are off. You know, so it really would be the difference between her being able to, you know, get it in time and keeping the house afloat, you know. So she was a freak about when you get home from school and you see a check in the mail, you call me so I can run out and I can cash that check and keep, you know, the house going. And so when I got older, not even old, last year, this is how it's still affecting me. Last year, there was a big snowstorm in Jersey. And there was snow, like there was a couple feet of snow. And I remember in my big age, so this was last year, so I was 34 years old. So in my big age, I was outside in the snowstorm, traipsing through the snow, going to the mailbox. So there's snow up to my knees. I had on lashes. There's like flurries all on my lashes. And I get back inside the house. And mind you, I don't live with her. Like I live, you know, by myself. I was with my husband and my daughter. So it's like, I'm fine. Right. But I sit down in this puddle of water around me from the snow. And I'm like, Janay, why did you do that? Why do you continue to do this? Right? You're fine. You know, there is no, you know, concept of having to hurry up and cash the check and all of that stuff for you. That wasn't your ish. That was your mom's ish. Wow. But you've taken it on. And now every single day in your big age, you still be outside getting the mail because that's what you were taught to do. You know?
Wow.
So yeah.
That's, first of all, thanks for sharing that story, but that just triggered something in me. And I'm sitting over here. I'm like, oh my God, I think I have the financial trauma in a different way. So my parents, I had 2-parent household. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad really handled finances. My mom really didn't work much. She took care of us for the most part, especially when we were younger. When we got older, she would have like odd jobs and watching children and that kind of thing. But the one thing I always say, finances is a difficult place still to this day that I fight and struggle through. And one of the things is that I don't open mail. It like...
Yeah, I know.
There is something about opening mail, and I've just got, which I feel like I'm better with, but like answering the phone. So as a kid, my dad, of course, my dad was a welder, so it wasn't like he was making buku money or whatever. At a time, again, I have an older brother. It was me, my younger sister, and I also had an older sister who passed away as well at some point. But so a pretty big family for him to be the only person working. And there would be times the phone would ring and it'd be like, don't answer the phone because it's a bill collector.
Yeah. Yep.
So still to this day, a lot of times, unless I know who's calling me and it's not about a bill or anything,
It's just in you, right?
It's literally in me. And what's weird is I know when I first started living on my own, when I had my kids, like when people would call me and I wouldn't know whose number it was, it would be instant, like, I don't know, like anxiety of like, is that I don't know, is that somebody who's going to like take the house, or I don't know where I do know where it comes from. As you said that, but that and not opening mail, I would get the mail. My dad would not open the mail.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah. And still to this day for me, like, you know, I work from home. So I hear the mailman coming and I literally have to like make a decision, have a conversation with myself, make a decision to like not go outside immediately and get the mail. So like I have to challenge myself, like, Janay, just wait till later. Like, you don't have to run and get it. And, you know, again, it's just in me to like just want to do that. But again, having that conversation with myself, knowing that like this mail thing, you know, it's rooted in scarcity. You know, it's rooted in like your lack mindset that says, I have to go see if there's money. There might be money in the mail. I have to go see. I have to go check, right? I'm good financially. I'm okay. So I don't have to do that. Like, I have to have that conversation with myself to stop myself from going outside every day to get the mail.
Thank you again. Thank you for sharing. I would love to know, for the people who are listening, to what traumas can they trace back to things that happen from, you know, their parental folks who raised them. Because I'm sitting over here and there's like so much coming in my head. I'm like, why do you do that? Why do you? Where exactly did that come from? But that financial place is like a real thing. It's almost so, you know, for my kids, and again, it stops with me. I know when my oldest, I think when he turned 13 or 14, I was able to like put him on my credit card and like start to teach him as much as I knew, because I am not the financial guru, but I learned the hard way. And then I started to teach myself and put myself in spaces and places that would teach me more, because my mom really never handled finances. So she's not great with handling money.
Okay.
My dad was really good at handling money, but really poor at sharing information.
Okay.
So like, I know he had really hard times when we were younger, but he did get himself back on track. And I always kind of like, again, conversations I wish I would have been able to have with him. I wish he would have, and I know he had the right intent in his head, but also I think back then their mindset was like, you have to learn it for yourself. It wasn't necessarily a sharing place. So like credit and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't somewhere where he was like, for my kids, when they turned 13, I think it's 13 or 14. I think 13 maybe on Amex, and then other cards are like 14 or 15. I added them as authorized users because that was something I figured out that, okay, this is what everybody else is doing. So their kids, when they walk into college, they have a 700-800 credit score. You know what I mean? It's like, why don't I share that with them? If I can't give you anything else, I can give you the stuff that I learned.
Yeah.
I think with my dad, because he grew up in this kind of like crabs in a barrel kind of environment of like, like whoever gets ahead, you get ahead, but people don't help each other. Like, but we're family. Like I can never understand that. Like, put me in a position, not just to make more money than you, but actually invest and do other things. Like, he just never, I don't know if he didn't know to share, or I really think part of it was just like, you got to get it on your own.
I think, that idea anyway is just so pervasive in our community. Just, like you got to hustle, you got to work for it, you got to get it. Nobody gave you anything. Nobody gave me anything. So I'm not going to give you anything. Like that idea has been so pervasive. But what I will say is I think with our generation, people are making sure, again, that it ends with us. And we see that like we are the only people that are doing stuff like this or like saying stuff like this, like other families, nationalities, all of them, like you're right, they're doing the credit thing. And, they're making sure that, their generations behind them are set up for success where we get set up to work.
Yep.
Like we really do. We set our families up to become workhorses. We teach them, you got to hustle, you got to work hard, you got to put in that time. We teach our kids to work harder and not smarter, So again,
do you think that's rooted in slavery? I hate to take it there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. I had a conversation in regards to that because again, my mentality is it stops with me. Whatever I can stop, it stops with me. Especially in the financial space, my oldest son, he probably has better credit than I do. At this point. I'm dead. I wish I was like, I'm so serious. He's like, he day trades and I love that for him. Yes. I love it for him, whether he, is making a whole bunch of money now or, making a little bit, but I love that for him because I think it just exposes him to a whole different place and space. Yeah. And for him, I'm just like, I don't want you, I get it. You may at some points throughout life work for someone else, but I don't want you to have the mindset of a worker. Like, I don't care what you do, own it. Like, both of the boys played basketball. I'm like, during the pandemic, I'm like, you're too valuable and you have too much value to just work for somebody. Yeah. He opened up his company. I'm like, even if you're not doing a whole bunch, I'll help you as much as I know. Cause I learned on my own as well, but we gonna make sure that your kids, like we can't, we have to stop that. Like we really, really do. And not be afraid to share information. Like there's space and room for everybody. Like
everybody. Yes. And that, that is something that like, I really try to like beat it to people. Seriously, like even me being an author and like, I never feel competition with other authors, even being a therapist, I never feel competition with other therapists because there's enough readers for all of us. There's enough, people that need therapy for all of us. Like if we just kind of show up in our zone of genius and do what God tells us to do and prepared us to do, your people are always going to be there.
Yep. I love that. I have something I've been telling my kids since they were younger. They finally got it probably about 2 years ago because they're a little older. Like, can't nobody do you like you. Like, we are uniquely made. Like, people who, your voice is for somebody specific. There are people who are going to listen to you and me. There are people that are only going to listen to you. There are people that are only going to listen to me. Like, there is 7.8 billion people in this world. Like, find your sphere of people and dominate that. Like, you never have to be, like you said, I love that. There's never competition. I'm a podcaster who love podcasts because you can't do what I do. You haven't been through what I've been through and I ain't been through what you've been through. So, seriously, like stay in your lane, do what you do and perfect what you do. And you never have to worry about, I embrace it. I would love to have other people come on. Like you said, I'm trying to be a therapist. What would it look like to be like, oh, I'm not going to have no other therapists. Come on. Like, no.
Right. Yeah.
There's room and there's space. And for people who are listening, whatever, God has set in your heart or giving you, like, do it. Do not think, oh, the market's so saturated. Everybody's doing podcasts or everybody's becoming therapists or people are, now in the mental health and whatever. Yeah, but your perspective, your sphere that you're going to come and dominate, I can't do. Right. And there's somebody waiting for us.
Absolutely. And I heard a saying a while ago about how, you see all the different types and versions of bread, right, in the grocery store, and everybody is got their thing that they love. And there can be a million different things and there's going to be that thing for someone. So same for you, like, you're going to be an amazing therapist and you're going to find your people, and other people too, they're going to find their thing and their people are going to come.
Yeah. I hope people really listen and hear that part, because I think a lot of people sit on their gifts, just
Absolutely.
watching other people write books, watching other people start podcasts or, businesses, and feeling like, oh, well, everybody's doing it, but everybody not you, boo.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's not you. And I always think about it like, who is like the stuff that I do, even this Therapy Thursday, for me, it is seed in the ground. It is what I like to think that my great grandkids will one day be listening to this and be
Yeah,
like,
that's a
my
beautiful.
my great grandmother was thinking of me while she was living her life. Like, she literally was thinking of, my life and what things would be like. And I think when people really look at their gifts, this is making me cry. When
Making
people
me
really
cry
look,
too. Like that. That's beautiful. It's beautiful.
yeah, when people really look at their gifts like that, it gives you such a weight of responsibility. Like, our lives, we get this much time on this earth, like, really. And the one thing that I've learned, even in losing my dad, is that I was not going to go to the grave full. Like, everything that I'm supposed to get out, that he allows me to get out, I'm going to get out. Because at some point, no different than your books, your great grandkids will be reading your books. Like, look at that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if we really just thought like that, like, we would not wait or delay in what God has told us to do, like, in any form or fashion. So I just
Mm-hmm.
made my own self cry because, of course, I'm.
No, it's beautiful. It really is, because
Yeah.
so much of what, has happened to us has been, from our ancestors and from our great greats. And, so for us to now be in a space where we can plan for our future generations, right? And know that, like, we getting it right too.
We're getting it right. We're doing it right, sis. Yes.
Doing the
We
work.
are getting it right. We are fixing it. There's restoration in this. And
Mhm.
that is really what I want these Therapy Thursdays to be, like, the pieces really coming back together. And I do not think it's just for us to get what we need to be restored. I think it's going to restore generationally what was lost in the past, like what, Nana was working on, or it was in her heart that she never was able to get out. Like, we're going to birth that out and restore it back to our family, to our last name, not just to us.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
I this has been so good. I almost don't want to end this session, but this is the first of many. I thank you. I do want to leave the folks with a disclaimer that, though this is therapeutic, this is not therapy. So if y'all
Okay.
need therapy,
Yep.
y'all see if Janay got any time on her calendar, or if she can, refer you to someone else. This has been
Mhm.
so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I look forward to many, 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 many more of
Yes.
these.
Thank
And I'm gonna speak that into existence. She like, girl.
we good. We good. No, I love the space that you've created. Brenda has always spoken very highly of it, and she said it gets very emotional, and I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to get there, and take my love for mental health, and take just our spaces and our generational traumas, and again, knowing that just by us having this conversation, it's stopping with us. It's starting something new. Like those our old preconceived notions and those old like stories that have been, so repetitive in our family, they're literally stopping just because we are aware.
Yes.
Just because we're
It's
aware.
a change. It's the exchange place, but it's changing lives. I love it. I love it. And I'm so happy that you are here. We look forward to having you. Is there any wisdom or anything you want to leave the guests with before we sign off for this
Um,
session?
just, what, there is this, I think, persistent idea of, if you go to therapy, it's healing, which it can be. But at the same time, I want people to keep in mind your purpose is not healing. Okay. Your purpose is, actually, your purpose is all of those words that we see in Family Dollar: live, love, laugh. Like that is our purpose, to live and to live well, to love and to love well, to laugh and have light, heartfelt moments, so our goal in life is to not heal, it is just to live and to live well. So we are going to have moments where, we're doing the work and we're following up and we're checking in with ourselves and we're doing all the things and really, looking at ourselves with new lenses, right? But at the same time, also, no, like I'm here to live, and I'm here to live well and enjoy it. And also show my kids what a happy mom looks like, right? And what mom looks like when she gets to do what she wants to do and not what she has to do or she needs to do,
I love that. That just blessed me. Yes. Yes. I am a reflection of that. I think the most amazing thing about therapy for me has really been the process of it. It's not always easy. But to be able to look back and know where I was, and I can see it in myself. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like, I literally look at me and be like, ooh,
yeah,
like the lightness and the peace. And like you said, living well. I always say, like, I hate when people we all have a there. I don't know where your there is. Everybody has a there, but I got there and there didn't look like there. Because I wasn't in a good place myself.
Yeah.
I had the money that I had always desired, the car that I wanted. I was living where I thought I was going to live, and I was not happy. I was not good. So yeah. So we encourage y'all to, hit Janay up or find your therapist, or again, she may have some resources that can help you along the way. And that's really what I want these Therapy Thursdays to do, to point people to people who can assist. We love the Exchange Place Therapy Thursdays, but, somebody who can walk you through living well and loving well and being well overall. So I just thank you. I'm excited. This was a great beginning, and we will see you next week. We out of here, y'all.